Good evening and welcome back to Lit Friday. If you are new to the program, Lit Friday is a virtual conversation hosted by the August Wilson African American Cultural Center. Occurring on the final Friday of each month at 6 p.m., Lit Friday offers conversations with writers, artists, and thinkers, and today, great organization builders whose work honors all of the Black experience. My name is Jessica Lanay, the host and curator of Lit Friday, and I'm also a freelance art journalist and creative writer. To keep up with future episodes, follow the August Wilson African American Cultural Center on Instagram at August Wilson Cultural Center. And you can follow me as well at hanginthere_kitty. Someone dropped the True T Instagram handle too.
Got you. At True T PGH. We'll
At
drop
True
that.
T PGH.
Yeah.
Follow True T as well. We see that popping up on the screen in the chat at True T PGH. Tonight, we have the absolute treat and pleasure of connecting with True T Pittsburgh, a pioneering organization that centers itself between health and wellness, social activism, and arts presentation. Dedicated to uplifting the LGBTQIA plus community through dynamic programming, creative expression, and social activism. True T Pittsburgh is a vital resource to the Pittsburgh community and people of the LGBTQIA plus community that live in the region as well. Now more than ever, the trans community, and in particular Black and Brown trans communities, need coalition and real advocacy. Protecting and advocating for the LGBTQIA plus folks and our communities, and also advocating for ourselves as being a part of the community, is an act of self-care, which ensures that all of our rights and collective humanity are respected and continue uninterrupted. So without further delay, I'm going to introduce our amazing guests. First, we have True T Pittsburgh co-founder and executive director, Dwayne Binion. Dwayne Binion, also known as Neek James, James spelled with a dollar sign at the end, brings a dynamic blend of creative vision, cultural leadership, and deep community advocacy. A celebrated musician, storyteller, and nationally recognized LGBTQIA plus changemaker, Dwayne has long used his platform to amplify the voices and stories of queer communities of color. Through his work with True T PGH, he leads the organization's mission to cultivate safe, expressive, and empowering spaces across Pittsburgh. With a background rooted in performance and social impact, Dwayne continues to drive forward inclusive programming that centers healing, visibility, and creative resilience. And next, we have John Easter III, co-founder and chief of operations at True T. John Easter III, known throughout the ballroom community as Desmanian 007, is the co-founder and chief of operations at True T Pittsburgh. With deep roots in the underground ballroom scene since 2008, John is both a cultural steward and a creative strategist, celebrated for his unique contributions to the art of Vogue. At True TPGH, he oversees operational execution while sustaining the organization's connection to the historical and contemporary ballroom movement. His leadership was recognized in 2023 with True TPGH's induction into the Pittsburgh Ballroom Hall of Fame, honoring the team's commitment to preserving and celebrating Black and queer performance traditions. John continues to mentor and mobilize others through community-centered programming and his signature artistic style. And last but definitely not least, always vital as everyone, and we have Julian McLean, Director of Partners and Relations for True T. Julian is currently trying to get into his house. Julian
Looking at the
McLean
mess.
Julian McLean serves as the Director of Partners and Relations at True T PGH. Julian was my gateway and introduction to the program, and so is a wonderful ambassador. And at True T, he brings his artistic excellence, strategic insight, and community first mindset to cultivating collaborations that uplift LGBTQIA plus people of color. An award winning visual artist and member of the legendary House of Ebony, Julian's impact extends across creative disciplines and community platforms, from ballroom stages to university outreach centers. Prior to joining True TPGH, he held impactful roles at the Kelly Strayhorn Theater and the University of Pittsburgh's Community Engagement Center. In addition to his work with True T, Julian leads Color Me Urban, a grassroots initiative empowering Black and Brown entrepreneurs, and serves as the president of the Urban League Young Professionals of Greater Pittsburgh. Welcome again to y'all. I'm happy to be able to
Thank
talk to
you.
you
Thank
and get
you.
the vital information out there. It's an opportunity for education. Now
Right.
let's talk about the erasure of the queer narrative from Sinners.
Period.
No, okay, we'll scratch that for a later conversation, later podcast. Dwayne actually wrote something to share with us.
Yes. Thank you, Jessica, for that beautiful introduction and for having us on your show and the important work that you do. So I just wrote a quick little reading just to give a little more insight to True TPGH, who we are, what we do, and where we're going with what we do. It's untitled. So we built this space because we knew, I'm sorry, we built this space because we knew what it felt like to need one. True TPGH was never just about programming. It's always been about the people, whether Black, brown, queer, trans led, young, unseen, those of us who were told that we had to shrink to survive. Alongside my friends and colleagues, Des and Julian, we've carved out a corner of the city where we don't just exist, but we thrive, we create, and we lead. Our work moves between worlds, from the ballroom floor to community boardrooms, from healing circles to open mics, from studios to the streets. We organize, we document, we resource, we dream. We show up for the ones still finding their voices, for the ones who've been told that you don't belong. And we respond back and say, hey, yes, you do. And actually, here's your mic. This isn't just about work, it's about legacy building. In every event, every program, every gathering, it's our personal love letter to the communities that shaped us and the ones that we're still shaping together. As we create the perfect recipe, the perfect true tea, 1 cup of unapologetic Black joy, 2 heaping scoops of queer resilience, a generous handful of transcendent creativity, 3 sprigs of community healing, a pinch of protest, crack fresh, 1/2 cup of chosen family, no substitutes, a drizzle of ballroom elegance, a splash of youth-led magic, crushed systems of oppression, optional, but highly recommended. We bring this together in a heavy bottom city, heat history on low until it begins to stir. Pour in Black brilliance. Let it steep, slow and sacred. Bold in stories pass hand to hand, lip to lip, stage to page. Stir in safety, at least until the room feels like home. Add creative, resource sharing, organizing, and a dash of radical love. Let this all simmer through the late nights, open mics, studio lights, and healing circles before you garnish with truth and we serve with pride. And then, my friend, you have the perfect concoction, the perfect recipe to reclaim your history, reclaim our existence, reclaim our time, the remedy to cure, to fight, to thrive, to live again. And that, my friends, is the true tea. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thinking about legacy, it actually opens on to my first question. And it's, when I remember or recall ballroom, I'm thinking of like a space of like hyper independence and self-sufficiency in community, right? So you have to know how to sew. You have to know how to make wake-up work. You have to know how to do hair. You have to know how to dance. You have to know how to skip all these interdisciplinary skills that you need, but you also need to practice mutual aid. And I feel like True Tea is a reflection of those communities. So I wanted to know if you guys could speak to that connection more between how True Tea represents itself and what it continues to activate from like ballroom community spaces.
Yeah, I think as members of the community that we serve, that is really what helps to continue on the legacy of True Tea. It can also sometimes be the double burden as well. But through our lived experience as members of the ballroom community, as lost college students trying to navigate the healthcare systems, as dreaming college students, right? Looking for an opportunity to create something special that can live past us. True Tea has done all of that for us. And we do that through creative art, social activism, meaningful resource sharing, and creating platforms for the voices that often get lost in the midst of all the things that are going on, the voices we need to hear, right? That are sometimes silenced by these larger institutions and laws and government and policies. We create that platform for people to be heard and to find community within that. One of the really important things with True Tea is that it continues to adapt and grow with the people and the times. Like I said in the reading, it's never really been about just the programs. We are ballroom. We're rooted in ballroom. We love throwing balls, right? Competing and feeling creative. But also we understand that in order to step into this ball, your real life comes first, right? So how are you living? What's your medical care package like, right? What resource and network do you have? And I think that all of that is really important, and it becomes part of the magic and the recipe. And continuing True Tea is about the relationships. It's about the trust that we're able to garner within the community. And also, it's never about us, right? We're creating these platforms so that even past us, it's a little bit easier for the next person or the next generation to kind of do the work that we're doing. Julian and Des.
Oh no, I think that's great. Like he had said, I think it all starts with us being a part of this um community. And so I feel like it's just great that we're able to basically create off the top of our head anything for our people because our people is us too. So it's a lot easier to be able to do that. And like I thank God that we are able to do that now. So yeah.
Mhm.
Right, right. And this like navigating the bureaucracy, like they both have said, has been like so complicated just on my own, like knowing as a young person of color that identifies as a male, like there is a lot of resources that like I know that I couldn't um, maybe get on my own or had to go through organizations and have tons of paperwork and tons of, like I said, bureaucracy to go to or go through and then like having to go through those avenues and just bringing an easier platform that we know that we can refer someone to housing, we can refer someone to food resources, we can refer someone to education because like we literally had to do the footwork to do it ourselves, and so yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and just to add, like once we got into these spaces to where we understood like how we can help our people more, we also started to see how systems fail us also. And so it just makes me feel powerful that we are able to step into these agencies and speak for everybody and to be able to tear down like these things that are holding all of us back. So like True T speaking our truth, like that is our number one thing, and that is what I'm happy about. Yeah.
There's something in the way that you all talk about the way you develop programming or provide resources that's like responsive.
Mhm.
Like the main flex of the organization is to actually listen to
Yes.
what's happening in the moment and then try to devise resources for that. And that in kind of communal improvisation like reminds me of the performance backgrounds that you all come from. And I was wondering if you could all talk a little bit more about that responsiveness as a way of maintaining community. Because I think we're in a moment where we're seeing a lot of reactionary responses to things, even from some activist corners that aren't necessarily helpful. Like participating in Schadenfreude online can be a relief in the moment, but it doesn't actually provide structure. But you all don't seem reactionary. It's responsive. It's
Yes.
actually being in the environment. Could you say more about that?
I think for me, I think us or whatever, we work off of know your strengths and know your
Yes.
weaknesses. And so when it comes to how we curate our things, we don't know everything. We don't know everybody. However, we know how to curate things, we know how to organize, and we know how to get people invested in the things that we have or whatever. And so it's about like working with people out there who do great things, but who are more professional or better at things
Mhm.
that I don't have, and vice versa. So it's about bringing everybody's strengths and going off of that. And so that's where we start from. And I'll let them continue to speak about it.
Yeah. I think as Black queer people, we say queer. I know some people have indifferences with the word, right? But as Black LGBTQIA plus people, it's been our whole existence that we had to adapt, right? We had to create something out of nothing, make lemonade out of lemons, right? So for us, it's kind of normal. And that's kind of the culture of ballroom. It's all improvised. Even when you're on the floor voguing, you're not going out there with an 8 count choreographed that you've been practicing all week. You know what I mean? You're going out there and you're doing what the the beat persuades.
You'd probably get caught if you do.
You would get caught, and it would just not feel like ballroom. I mean, you see it in other countries, like in Russia and China, where their ballroom is more choreographed and more like ballerinas voguing. You know what I mean? And that's a different type of ballroom. But ballroom has always been an adaptive, interpretative art expression, and that is how we live our lives as well. As Black LGBT individuals, we find ourselves code switching, to get in the right doors, and then you know what I mean, trying to adapt and bring the resources back to the people and make it understandable and in the language we all speak. You know what I mean? But I think that that is one of the strengths of our community, and that is why we understand that in the work that we do, you can't look at any two people the same, right? Everybody has a different route, a different path to success, or what their end picture is. So we look at it all as individualistic opportunities, and we listen to the people. And some people come to us because they lack life resources, which is one
Mm,
of our major focuses. But then we have
mm,
a good bit of people that are okay with their life resources, but they need platforms to express themselves creatively through art, or want to be more respected in their art form as LGBT people who only get booked for Pride season, right? And they're
right.
all, you know what I mean? But we have
Yes.
theaters and clubs and bars all around the city where we could be sharing our artwork and culture as well. So I think that that is something that just comes naturally to us. We adapt, we make room, and we find comfort in uncomfortable situations.
And speaking to the responsiveness piece, that goes back to how we actually came about
Mhm.
on Facebook also, because we had started this huge group because
Yes.
we felt like we were not being taken seriously as youth. And so we created True T so that we can speak our truth without any like backlash from
Mhm.
anybody. And so that's how we started to get the scene involved in speaking up, speaking out, and to being more like advocate for yourself, basically.
Yes.
Mm.
We were born out of revolt.
Right. And
Yes.
then I also want to just touch really quickly on the fact that you equated like how ballroom and how you meet the need to ultimately win a competition if you're doing it for that. And like you might have something planned, but then you see somebody else and you're like, oh, now I got to stand on a table,
Yes.
or now I gotta do this or do that to make sure that I'm meeting the need.
Mhm.
And so I really like how you equated that to how True Tea meets the need in that form. What do we have to do to pivot or to make something viable or a need for community?
Yeah.
As you mentioned, a little bit of the history, right? It started as a
Mhm.
Facebook group. So, the official on the, Heinz Endowment website is, like you were working professional jobs, you decided you wanted to start the organization, Des and Dwayne together, and then you made some sacrifices. So that's the official story. What's
Mhm.
the real of what it took to build True Tea from, as you said, like a sounding board on Facebook to an actual brick and mortar that is providing life-saving resources to your community? What is this story? How did you all come to find and fill the vacuum where you are?
I was about to say that Heinz stuff, it sounds cute, but there's definitely a larger story behind that. But
Absolutely.
yeah, but I mean, I like the way he starts off the story, so I'll let him start off with the history of us and stuff like that, and then I'll jump in.
Yeah. So the years are all over the place right now, right? But we were in college. Des actually is not from Pittsburgh. He was up here from Erie to attend Pitt University, right? So Des and I, we stumbled across each other as new participants in the ballroom community. And we kind of really gravitated to each other. I was in the house of St. Clair at the time, and he was in the house of Crayola. And our two houses used to sometimes practice together. So that's how we met each other. And one thing that kind of separated, I guess, us apart from some others was that we always dream big, right? Even when others might feel like it was unrealistic or impossible, the two of us would dream big. So Des and I, we would go to his dorm or his house after class sometimes and just dream of what we could be, or what the city could be as ballroom participants in a
I
city
love
that
that.
is not well, at the time, the city was not as respected in the ballroom community as it is today, right? It was a lot smaller scene. So we were trying to figure out like how do we Hollywood, how do we make this feel like Hollywood? Like how do we make this into like a real scene that people are actually interested in and want to participate in? And that was kind of the birth of True Tea. So it started off in revolt, right? There were leaders at the time that were kind of, questionable and the lack of participants within the community. So we use True Tea as this opportunity to speak up and be the voice of the different issues and topics that are happening through our Facebook chat. From there, we were invited to like, hey, do this pre-event party for us or host this podcast for us, blah, blah, blah. So we kind of ventured around to figure out like where we fit in, honestly. The big goal in the beginning was entertainment. It was to create safe space entertainment events. In the midst of us creating these balls and programming, that's when we started to realize, hey, our friends aren't necessarily having the easiest time accessing these opportunities with us. People are traveling from state to state, from California coming to Pittsburgh, and they get here and they don't have anywhere to stay. Or, people are actually coming to these balls to win the grand prize money so that they could pay the rent or buy their food tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I mean? So at the time, Des was working at the Pittsburgh AIDS Task Force. I was working at the Kelly Strayhorn Theater. And we were trying to find creative ways that we could take the resources and opportunities that we were getting at our two places of employment and share them with everyone else. I was also a public ally at the time as well, too. So Des started to incorporate HIV and STI testing at our events. And that is something that has been historical in ballroom, started in New York City, Harlem Renaissance era, where the HIV organizations would come and test people and they get in for free. It was just something that wasn't as normal here in Pittsburgh. So we adapted and we brought that in. And that's honestly one of the gateways to why you see so many healthcare organizations partnering with balls today, I will say. But that kind of started that. And then while I was at the Kelly Strayhorn Theater and Julian also later at the Kelly Strayhorn Theater, we found opportunities to immerse our ballroom performers into world-class art, right? Because Vogue
Right.
is art. And oftentimes people try to categorize and box us into like, oh, these are just people putting on costumes and frolicking around on the floor, you know what I mean? But it takes a lot of training and conditioning to your body to vogue. Voguers are some of the most brave and creative performers because it's all off the top of their heads. And literally the 45 seconds that you're out there performing, it feels like 10 minutes, like literally. And so, yeah, we started incorporating Vogue performances into the work we were doing at the Kelly Strayhorn Theater. And people are now getting paid $500,000 for the performances just to, come out and be yourself, right? And that is kind of like where we got the gist of it all. In the midst of that, we had to combat things as issues arise within the community, whether it be a community member or an organization. If there is an issue, True Tea became the voice. So sometimes we got to play the bad guy. You know what I mean? But within
Absolutely.
all of this, we were able to actually make change and find our space in all of this, and also built a community that has stood strong with us for over 15 years now. And they continue to grow with us while this new generation of people are coming up too. We got 14-year-olds now that we cater to. You know what I mean? But I'm not sure if I answered everything, but
No, I think that was great. I think that was great. Yeah.
So you both had to also take an out. You had to actually leave your kind of like your jobs were in community activism in the arts, but there's a point at which you all had to make that sacrifice.
Yes. And I think
Like, how
with
do you
that,
build an organization when you're sacrificing, right? What we all know are, nonprofit executive staff salaries.
right.
Yes.
No, right. Like,
And
and
if you
that's how I'm
go
sorry,
ahead,
you can
Dash,
go
you're
ahead.
good. Go ahead.
Yeah, like when I had quit my job before I started, being full time with us or whatever, I didn't have a idea or an option. I just knew that how my current job had me working and helping people, I didn't want to do it that way because I didn't feel it was effective to do it that way. And so I was like, you know what? True T, I'm going to do it how we want to do it because it has to be done that way. And so I just quit my job. Like I didn't have any choice or thought. I just didn't want to do it in that way anymore. I wanted to help blacks and gays in the way I want to. And so that's why I chose to, take that leap and leave.
Yeah. And I remember a defining moment. It was in like 20, because so we started True Tea 2010-ish or whatever, right? From 2010 to roughly 2019, we were partially LLC, partially just a group of people doing stuff together. You know what I mean? So we were literally sustaining the organization off of our paychecks. And we realized like this is not sustainable because we weren't getting paid that much. And then the goal is also to not rob the community, right? We're trying to provide affordable, accessible events. So you're not going to get rich off of that either. So we
Mm.
did realize that we had to take a step away from our places of employment. So that was in like 2019 is when we just woke up one day and we're like, yo, like I had a conversation now. I'll always remember this. And I thank him slightly. I thank him a lot actually for this because it really gave me the fire I needed. But local community organizer and a good friend of ours, Daryl Kinsel, right? I remember having,
Yes,
I
yes,
love Daryl and he keeps it real, right? I
brother,
remember having
a
a conversation.
brother.
Our brother, yes. And also, he's so inspiring watching him take boom concepts to where he's taking it. But I remember having a conversation with him outside at lunch at the Kelly Strayhorn, and he asked me, like, bro, so what's going on? Is True Tea just like a hobby? Or, even like, are you just going to give yourself the Kelly Strayhorn Theater all your life, or are you going to take a risk and do something with it? And it really like sparked me. And like Dez as well, we both have different situations where it kind of like ignited the thought like it's time to take a risk. Like this is what we want to do. This is our calling. This is what makes us happy. This is what benefits our community the most. And we just have to take the risk. And 2019, we quit our jobs. We applied for funding from the Jewish Healthcare Foundation. We met with the state from Harrisburg, and they loved our ideas. And we thankfully got our first physical building in Bloomfield in 2019, and we continue to grow from there. And it's been a learning process. Like everything is trial and error. We had no mentors for the most part. We just kind of navigate, figure it out as we go. Like,
What did it feel like to like walk into the building? Like, what did it feel like to just
It
like
was
enter into your space?
it was surreal to me.
yeah,
Like, but I felt like finally, like I know
yeah,
that sounded bad, but I felt like finally, goodness, I don't have to rent from here, 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 and here, and here. I just felt like it was the natural next step in order to feel like we could do more. Like you can get trapped down to feel like you're not going as fast as you need to go, but
Yes.
but to have that space and to know that we don't have to rent all these other spots anymore. We have our own home base. It was amazing to
yeah.
the point where, like I said, I quit my job and didn't have anything lined up after that. I was just so over it to the point it's like this has to work, and it worked. So yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So what are the most challenging aspects of kind of operating, and
Woo.
what is it what do we call it, the Paris, what is the Paris of the Appalachians, the gateway to the Midwest,
Oh
right?
yes,
Like
yes.
how, like what are the unique challenges of existing and operating in that region in Pittsburgh? Because I imagine that you have a lot of people coming out of semi-rural areas too that have experienced, probably, the some of the hardest things that we can imagine of our lives as queer people. So it's like, what is it? How does it? It's such a responsibility to fill that kind of a vacuum and to bring visibility to yourself. It's such a huge
Yeah.
responsibility. What are the challenges of doing the work you do where you are?
Well, I could say for me, one of my biggest is like you can really lose your sense of self sometimes when you come from a small community and you're a part of the same one that you're actually helping. And so like we had to like sacrifice walking balls and doing all of these other things that we loved to do because we wanted to help other people like us. And so for me, it's like losing myself and to like understand how I can fit into this whole mode as well, not just giving myself over to everybody, but to also know that you are me too. Like
Mm.
I need the same things that you need. However, I'm just in a space to where I can help everybody more. And so I think for me, that's my main thing is like we're not a large Black population here. And so you can feel really small and like boxed into where you have nobody around you. But yeah, that's my thing.
Yeah. I agree with everything that Jay said, honestly. Um, I will also add that I guess in 2020 era during the pandemic, right, we saw
Yeah.
an influx of trans and or non-binary community members moving from rural areas to Pittsburgh in efforts to gain access to more resources because it was getting spread around that, we had more gender affirming care, we have Central
Mhm.
Outreach Wellness Center, we had organizations and people who will actually figure out how to get you the resources and the things that you need. And in the midst of that, we lack housing, right, in Pittsburgh. And if there is housing, it's thousands of dollars, right? So there's a homeless issue, and we run into that a lot where people are reaching out for emergency housing or somewhere to stay. And that has been probably one of our biggest struggles because, for the most part, anything else people can come to us with, we might not know the answer, but we got resources and partners that we could figure it out for you. You know what I mean? But the
Yeah.
housing is a little more difficult, especially when most of the resources for LGBT people in Pittsburgh are for HIV positive, which is great. But also, we serve as an organization that is supposed to be early prevention, right? So our role is to kind of get the condoms and prevent you from experiencing HIV and or AIDS. And there's not much funding for folks who are negative. Which also becomes an issue for us or a difficulty for us in navigating. So I think that is probably one of the most challenging things is being members of the community you serve, having relationships with the members of the community that you serve, and then wanting to solve everybody's issues with three staff members and limited funding and resources. You know what I
And
mean?
also, yeah, to speak to him like the how funding works in Pittsburgh also can
Mhm.
be pretty
Challenging.
frustrating
Hmm.
sometimes. Yeah, because the same coins go in the same hands and it just
Hmm.
goes in one
Yes.
huge thing. And and so like you hear folks who say, I support, I I support, but financially it's very hard to break into this space in Pittsburgh where you have to know people to get things. And so
Yeah, it's not
that's where we are
emotional
now.
support. They're giving you emotional support, but not structural support.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. And it's like people they take more to pain and trauma
Hmm.
and things like that, but we don't want to be exploited for that all the time. There is
Exactly.
Yeah.
beauty in us, and so don't just support us because of HIV. There's also art, there's also health, life, many
Hmm.
things.
20
So
year
The
long
the
HIV
culture that
survivors.
you
Like,
use to get 1 million followers on TikTok.
yay.
exactly.
The culture
Exactly.
that you use to get 1 billion followers on
Culture.
TikTok.
And that's always been my biggest thing in Pittsburgh is making sure Black people get what they need and get what they have a right to have,
Hmm.
just like everyone else. And so that's my biggest thing. Yeah.
Hmm.
And Julian, I kind of met you on the front lines when you were at the table, like saying hello to everyone at an August Wilson African American Cultural Center event. So
Mhm.
you have a more immediate person to person view of what some of the challenges are.
I think I've always just been intrinsically black, and some of the all of the other hats that I wear, like we mentioned, like the urban league young professionals. Like I sometimes you have to mend things and sew things together to make things work. And so if I know that a coat drive is happening with one group, why not we all partner together and make it a stronger structural thing? And I think that like sometimes like we were saying with funding and things like that, that it's hard for you to kind of like acquire a new set of money for a new idea sometimes. And so that's kind of what I think the beauty of Pittsburgh is as well, is that a lot of us wear different hats in different spaces sometimes as well. So when I was at the August Wilson Center, to answer your question, I was in my president of the Urban League Young Professionals role. But then also, if I meet a queer person, I have tons of resources for my True T role. And then if I meet someone that needs housing, I'm the president of an emergency housing center. I can get you housing. So stuff like that. So sometimes, like I said, you have to mend and meld things together to make it work. And that's just intrinsically as a black person. That's what my mom did. That's what her mother did. What I do, and that's what we do. I think.
Have you ever experienced in Pittsburgh or the surrounding areas like a pushback from the Black community in terms of experiencing like anti-LGBTQIA plus like support?
I can say, I'm sorry, I'm getting a phone call. I can say
Yeah.
that personally, I felt some homophobic overtones and things like that. But I can say organizationally, like um, I've never really experienced um, pushback from the Black community to say like, why is anything like gay here? But I might be walking
Hmm.
the street and they might say, why is that gay boy here? So I don't know. And then like I said before, like the bureaucracy and hierarchy of things, sometimes like you don't know what people are saying behind closed doors, and maybe they don't want to partner with you because they don't support queer ideals, or they come from a Christian background. Maybe that's just not their ideal set. So maybe we've gotten a no, or maybe that's been a partnership lost, and it's unbeknownst to us for those reasons, but not directly to my face has anyone given me pushback.
You're muted,
Dead.
Jess.
Oh,
No,
there you go.
no, I don't think I've had much. I think I've had like um one, but they were concerned with the fact that we do serve Black LGBTQ, but they had felt we should also focus on women as well, which we do. And
Hmm.
so we don't get much pushback about it, but also at the same time, we only work with folks who we know like us, really. So it'll depend.
Like work with people who you know respect you from the gate.
Right,
Yeah, in
exactly.
our
Exactly.
When I got,
community, like
yeah.
respect the community. Yeah.
Right.
Dwayne, you and I had jumped into a small conversation about having to code switch at interims when you
Yeah.
are seeking grant funding.
Yes.
What is that experience like, and how do you all strategize around that?
Listen, it's disgusting. And
Yeah.
honestly, at this point in my life, I've kind of do without, right? I think when we first started, because it was so new to us and you felt like you wanted that support, right? We need this money. We need to get off the ground. I felt like I did have to code switch to make people feel comfortable and to see me as a different type of Black gay man in the room, right? But today, no, I will walk in the room and we will literally just tell you what it is because at the end of the day, I feel I feel like um, I mean, there are certain situations that do call for code switching in a sense, I guess, when you're speaking to these larger, vast audiences and you just need to be more commercial and understandable for all, right? But I feel like in the work that we do, we are here to level the playing field, right? We're here
Mm.
to equalize to literally all we're asking for is the same grace that our white counterparts get. And if I have to come in the room and demand that to get it, then so be it. You know what I mean? It kind of just is what it is. And understanding, like Julian and like Des both said, that sometimes some partnerships just don't work out. And there's a million other people and partners that do believe in the work that we do, that do care about the communities that we serve, and we'll move on to the next one, honestly.
So my next question is about your programming, right? Because I think that well, let me back up. I'm going to back up to a more serious question. And it's about the current administration and how that's
Mhm.
affecting your community, what you're
Mhm.
seeing as a result of what we see going down in DC. Because I
Mhm.
feel like unless you are a part of the LGBTQIA plus two, if we're thinking a two-spirit community, you don't necessarily see us fleeing in the thousands.
Right.
You don't see us running for our lives with the things on our back or the things we can fit in a friend's car.
Right.
Mhm.
No one's seeing that. That's not being televised. No one's speaking to that, but it is happening.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
how are you all, as you know, I don't want to say coworkers, it's deeper than that, right? How are you as
Yeah.
co-conspirators and collaborators, right?
Mhm.
Dealing with that together, but as well as serving your community in this time of, again, for our people in particular, forced flight.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, we do see, obviously, we see a lot of impact from what's happening with the government, from trying to take away PrEP to the DEI, gender affirming care being removed, right? People can't get their correct genders on their IDs as well, which is something that's very stressful. I think the beautiful thing here in Pittsburgh, though it does have its downs, we have some ups, right? And in these past 5 to 8 years, we've seen so many smaller community-led organizations and nonprofits rise. So when there is a lack of support from these larger institutions and funders, we come together and we combine our resources. And I think that has been the most beneficial thing. Organizations like Trans Uniting, the Community Center, Hugh Lane Wellness Foundation, Central Wellness Outreach Center, regardless of what the funding situation is, if there is a need, we will figure it out like and combine our powers to make it happen. But that has been the most beneficial. And the fact that within these relationships and partnerships with the organizations, we all intentionally work with each other based off of our strengths, right? So some organizations are more respected for mental health. Some are more
Mhm.
for HIV and STI testing. Others are more art presenting or safe space, YMCA vibes, you know what I mean? But we work together to kind of like uplift and make our works more visible within the community.
Mhm. And I would say just as well, just about the administration, I think the unknown is just so scary. And like it's hard to navigate like the future, but just like you don't know if funding is going to be there. You don't know if research is going to continue. And so like just like Dwayne was saying, like people are applying for passports, and when they get their passports renewed, like they'll change their F to an M back to an M. And so like they're going overseas with a passport with a gender that doesn't match their appearance anymore, and it puts them in danger and things like that.
Mhm.
And so I think it's just the unknown of how do we reverse things, or can they be reversed? Will funding ever come back if it's
Mhm.
lost? The international aspect of it, USAID being cut, and like thousands of people dying from HIV and AIDS and things like that across the world. And I think that just puts us in a dark perspective, like I said, of the unknown. And so like we try to, I don't know, like shed a light on like what we can control, like what we can celebrate, what we can um, find as a resource to make life easier for our neighbors and our friends and our families and things like that. So I think that just um, piecing like together, like we said, piecing together just things that people can utilize while we have them, like while we know we can give them to them, while we know that it's available, because the unknown, like I said, is so scary.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I agree with everything that they said. And um, if you watch all the news and read all the time, you can really get yourself down. And so for me, I'm at a point now to where for me to look at this in a positive way as a Black person, we have been through so much, you know? And so at the end of the day, the only choice we have now is to survive and make it. And so
Mhm.
that's how I feel. We're going to make it. I don't know how, but we will because we have to. And so that's how I'm able to be more like calm now because there's honestly nothing we can do, and there's never been anything we can do other than survive and live. And so that's what we're gonna do.
Hmm. And find moments to celebrate. Like I said earlier,
Yeah.
there's a lot of trauma and drama and negativity happening in the world, but there's also lots of things to be happy about. HIV is not where it was 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Like we have made advancements around that. Like I said, within the past 5 to 8 years, you see way more Black and Brown led nonprofit organizations and community groups in the city of Pittsburgh. We didn't have that. We used to have the GLCC and they barely wanted us there. But we did, you know what I mean? So you see growth, and I see a new generation of game changers. I love, what are they called? Generation Z or Generation Y?
Gen Z, yeah.
Gen Z,
Then
yeah. But I love, we love the Gen Zs because I feel like the Gen Zs took everything that we were trying to like start in the millennial era and like ramped it up. Like you cannot get anything past these kids. They are not going to let some elder take advantage of them and them just be silent. You know what I mean? And I really love it. And it inspires us to kind of keep doing the work too.
no, for Gen Z, I enjoy like the idiosyncratic humor that kind of
Yeah.
protects them and
I
then they
love
can
that.
kind of code you out
Yeah.
so they can have their own little interaction about their specific kind of angst, right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
if you're a millennial, you still had a little hope,
We, you know,
a little,
we
but
started
they're
the change, you know.
exactly, they're coming into the world, and then those after them with no other conscientiousness other than, oh,
Oh, yeah.
oh. And so there's a usefulness sometimes to that little nihilism that they
Mhm.
have. It protects them in a sense.
Yes.
That reminds me of
But
this meme. I'm sorry. This reminds me of, well, it's not really a meme, but a short video. And then it's like this Gen Zer getting kidnapped. And she's like, do you like me or something?
I have seen
It's
that.
so funny.
So let's talk about some of the programs. That was the question I was going to ask. And then I decided to backtrack. But what are some of the programs? There's TAG, right? And then there's the digital skills courses. Talk about some of the services or programs that you offer and what need and why, like how those ideas came about based on what you're responding to, what you're seeing in your community.
Yeah. So as we continue, or like I said in the beginning, we started off very ballroom heavy, very event focused, community building. In the midst of that, we saw that there were resources lacking. Um, we focus all of our programming between education, arts and entertainment, and then community health. So as you mentioned, the Grow with Google program, which we are super excited about, applications actually are going live next week. But we started this collaboration with Google in 2024. Am I correct? Or was it 23? I think it was 23.
I think it was 23.
Yeah, 2023. Okay. So annually, we are able to accept roughly 50 to 80 applicants to participate in the Grow with Google program. They can learn anything from coding to digital design, cybersecurity. I
Mm.
believe there's roughly 8 different areas. These programs range anywhere from $200 to $800 to participate in, but through our program, you get it for free. And it's anywhere from 6 to 8 months, but they are all kind of a choose your own adventure. You could take as long as you need to kind of complete them. But upon completing, Google has a portal in which you can actually apply to jobs. And we've actually had applicants ranging from 18 to 30 up that have now jobs that are making 60, 80K a year, you know what I mean? Just from completing the program. So that's something that we're super excited to provide to the community as another opportunity for income and just career building. Outside of that, of course, we do HIV and STI testing and prevention. That is one of our major goals is to eradicate AIDS and HIV from the
Hmm.
world and or provide safety tips so that while you are having sex, there are precautions that you could take in the midst of that, whether it be PrEP, condoms, whatever. And then our community program. The programming is what we try to be the most responsive to what the community wants, right? We obviously were born out of ballroom, so we do have a lot of ballroom programming between our
Right.
Vogue workshops, our Kiki Lounge program, which is a kind of open session in which any member of a house can come together and just kind of vogue around without feeling like you have to compete or be judged around it. And then we also partner with the Kiki and the mainstream ballroom scene here to produce balls, to record balls, and to throw our own balls with that. But our Tag Collective is a collective made up of 18 interdisciplinary artists. So we have rappers, we got singers, dancers, videographers, and we all come together to share the resources of not only True T, but of each other. Because as individual artists, some folks are skilled at video editing, others are songwriters. And like Dez, you would probably never guess, but Dez is a songwriter, right? Like, he has
I
written.
think I could guess that Des is a songwriter.
I
And
try, I try.
Julian actually does vlogging and he has like a vlog series on YouTube. So we try to like incorporate the art that we do back into True T and then immerse it with the art that people in our community do as well. And like I said, to create platforms outside of just Pride season for us to be seen and celebrated. But all of our programs are either free or super accessible that happen at the studio, especially for our members. And we also even offer discounts for rentals. We do not go into our day-to-day lives planning to get rich off of the community, right? The goal
Right.
is that we do bring in money for the overall organization so we can do greater things for the community. But we want the work that we do to be accessible. The goal is to build community and to change the landscape. So, Yeah, our programming, we try to keep it diverse and it changes pretty much every season.
I love it. I love it. And so I read in one of the reports I looked at before while doing my research that at the time that it was published, it's like you all had helped 19 people find housing and
Oh yeah.
stabilize around income. What's some of the fruit of the work that you have been able to see and celebrate after 15 years?
Yeah.
Like you all have been very purposeful and like, yes, it's hard, but joy is the water of existence, right? Nothing,
Yes.
it's like joy is like water, it's a necessity, nothing survives without it. And
Yes.
so, like, what are some of the fruits of your communal labor that you've been able to see without, of course, giving any names if it's private
And
information, of course.
I think one of them for me is when I see some of these people and kids who got introduced to ballroom through us, and then we see them at these events and they shout us out, or we know that we were their first intro to this scene, and now they are here and they feel great and they feel like, I don't know, amazing. And just to know that True T was able to do that and that someone sought us out because they wanted that, that was my goal since the beginning. So that really makes me feel good. Like that's my biggest thing.
Mhm.
And I can say, like, from the partnership aspects, one of our previous volunteers now works at American Eagle,
Oh yeah.
and we recently did a presentation. They had brought us back to do a presentation like they had gotten while they were volunteer here because they thought it was important for their staff um, to know about True Tea. And so, like, we never intrinsically know who we're touching, like, at the end of the day, and who they might be also one day. And so I think that was one of the biggest like fruits for me is to see like, okay, one of our college student volunteers, of course, they're going to grow up to have some sort of job, and then
Mhm.
and then it came full circle. Now we're giving a presentation at American Eagle headquarters because um,
One of our
one
students brought
person
us
liked
back.
their experience with us. Yeah.
Mhm.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that y'all said. I really love the fact that we are a lot of people's entry point into the Pittsburgh LGBT community, whether it be for ballroom or we get a lot of people that are new to transitioning and want to be connected to
Mm.
more trans women or non-binary folks. Um, and seeing the growth from when a person walks through the doors and might be shy and timid and just unsure to turn into like this confident diva. We see a lot of that, but it's
It's
beautiful.
amazing.
It's beautiful to watch people kind of find themselves. And then for me also, it is the team. Like these were my friends before we started True T. You know what I mean? I met Julian probably in the earlier portion of True T, but we've all been friends for over 10 years or more at this point, and none of us were the people that we are today. And and I think watching us as individuals grow, like Julian used to hate being in front of the camera. Like literally, but literally we used to
I have
beg
a
him.
secret. I can relate.
Okay.
Yeah.
No shade.
All of us on none of us really are like camera people. Like I used to hate public speaking, Des as well, and just like growing into like these leadership positions in which like now we get to make the decisions that we used to question our bosses about. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
slightly understanding why some of the decisions they made were made. You know? Um,
Hmm.
but it's just a different angle of it all, and watching us all kind of blossom into not only our administrative hats, but our artist hats, and just finding comfort in all that. It's beautiful, and how many people get to work with their best friends? So
Yeah. No, I mean, and then do that in a way that you all are secure enough to develop and grow and like make mistakes together without it ended up being like like
yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like the
No,
drama comes in.
no,
Um,
yeah, I think that's the good thing about us. Like we all think differently,
We
but
do.
but we'll be talking about the same exact thing. Like, but we're all thinking about it differently. So, but we get to a point where it's like we just all know how everyone is, and so it's
Yeah,
fine.
we know how to blend it all together.
So my last question is, what does the organization need to continue to thrive? How do you need the community around you to respond? What are some of the resources that you need in order to kind of take it to the next level, which is like helping exponentially more people find themselves, find stability, find medical resources, and find that chosen family?
Mhm. That's a good
Um,
one.
it is a good one. Well, of course, funding, very
Mhm.
important. Like, just funding Pittsburgh, getting some help with figuring out how to pierce these industries and to find new ways to fund our organization other than the things that we do have now. And also, we need people to tap in. And when I mean by tap in, I mean like words is great, but we need some actions. Like we literally try to just do all of this stuff, and everyone will say like, yes, support, but we need to see the actions. And so I think like now, like tapping into our Instagram, tapping into our Facebook, tapping into testing clinic, like we have so
Mhm.
much to offer, but we need people to tap into it. Yeah,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah, you took everything I was going to say. Honestly, I definitely think it comes down to the public support as well. And going back to like the double burden of being a member of the community that you serve, sometimes for us, because we have longer term relationships with a lot of community members, a lot of the stuff that we do to the community can just feel owed or expect it. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
not necessarily as something that's like special. And how they might kind of uplift a larger white-led organization. They don't necessarily always do that for us. And I do think that sometimes the public visibility is half the battle, especially when you're applying for these grants and things like that. It's great for you to sit in my private office and tell us how impactful we are and how meaningful we are. But sometimes it being seen on a larger level, it just helps with the growth of the overall organization.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Julian?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're kind of like you're like doing the outreach and the partnerships.
Mhm.
And of
Right,
course, funding is always critical. Funding and structural support is definitely needed, but
right,
there are also ways that you may need the community to show up.
right.
Mhm.
Volunteers. Like, so at
Mhm.
the end of the day, like we said, we're only three people strong. Well, four. We have a studio assistant. Her name's Miss
Mhm.
Tracy. But yeah, structural support. I put that volunteerism in that category. Is that like Carol Baskin and it's all these people, you get all these volunteers, like what's going on? So yeah, so a part of like stepping up, like Jazz was saying, or John, stepping up and actually being a part of the organization could literally mean coming in to volunteer or helping us with tabling or putting together safety kits or whatever it may be, and actually spending time with us. And we invite you all to do that.
Is there anything you all want to share before we close? It's been an incredible conversation. And I've asked a lot of questions, but I may not have asked the right question. Is there anything that you've been dying to share or say?
This
No,
was
you,
honestly,
I'm sorry.
go
Go ahead.
ahead. You're probably gonna say the same thing.
No, I was saying you did great. This was an amazing interview. I loved everything that you asked because there were definitely things that you asked that no one has ever asked us
I was gonna
before.
say
And
that.
um just left my mind. Come back. Come back.
Yeah. But our season is dropping. So our fall season will be announced a little later this month. We have a lot of exciting events happening. Also, new to some people, as of last year, we do now offer HIV and STI testing on site here at True T Studios, Monday through
Mhm.
Friday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. So folks can stop by. It is completely free. It is confidential. And we also partner with Central Outreach Wellness Center for PrEP access as well. So if people need access to that. We're not worried about money, y'all. We're not worried about your health insurance. We will figure it out with you, literally. And I do want to also throw out that we do peer navigation as well. So if folks are having difficulties navigating the healthcare system, also you can reach out to True T and we will get you connected to the right folks for that.
Yes. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah,
Julia.
you all
Yeah,
feel.
Okay.
there's so
Oh,
much going
well,
on. Go
oh,
ahead.
one more thing. I think people don't understand that we're so small because they see like some of the events that
Mm.
we do, but we're very, very, very small to a point where like we definitely need more staff, but we just want everyone to know like yes, we do some like lots of work, but we are a very small staff and we just like would like people to understand that a little more too.
So be patient with your outreach on social media because we be trying to keep up between Facebook and Instagram and all.
But it's too many hats to wear, and we're just at a point to where we can't do everything. And so, but yes, yes.
So get that funding together so that way they can
Yes.
hire more incredible, amazing people. So you
Mhm.
can have faster responses
Yeah.
and give more resources and have more
Yes.
community and have flyer,
Yeah.
not that they're not already flyers, ballrooms that you can have. I thank all of you so much for being like open and vulnerable, having this conversation with me. And anytime you have a new season dropping and I'm around, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Thank
No,
you so
yes, for
much.
sure. Thank you
Okay.
so much. I
Thank
love the
you,
conversation.
Jessica. Okay.
Thank
Jessica, you are
y'all.
Talk
amazing.
that to
We
y'all.
appreciate you.
Mhm.
Talk
Thank
to you
you so much.
later.
Don't
You
sign
are
off
your
just
True
yet.
T
Hold on
family
one
now.
second.
All right.
Oh no,
Okay.
I was gonna say, hold on one second. Bye, night, everybody.